Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be unboxing 3 packages here, and to be honest, I only know what's inside of one of them. I believe we got an iPhone 4S running iOS 5, and then these other 2 packages, I have no idea. I bought them several months ago, and am just now getting around to opening them up. So hopefully it's some cool stuff. Even if it's not, we should still get that 4S running iOS 5, which is a pretty sweet device. So let's get these packages open, see what we've got, and hopefully we've got ourselves some interesting devices to talk about. Let's begin. Okay, so a bit of an assortment here. We've got our 2 props. We'll move those out of the way. And here's the iPhone 4S. As you can see there, it's a little scratched up. Whoops. Let's see if this has any power. I'm expecting it does. And we do have that old style Apple logo. That's a good sign. Here we have a 4th gen iPod Touch. It's an 8 gig model. I'm not sure why I bought this unless it's running iOS 4. And it's probably dead. These things have really bad batteries. We'll have to get that charged up. Then we've got 2 iPhones here. These are both iPhone 6s Plus models in pretty rough condition. We've got a gold one here and a rose gold one here. The rose gold one's completely shattered. The gold one is scratched up and it does have a crack. Now, let's see. So this one, the one here, the gold one, okay, there we go. The home button or the power button is like stuck and that one's coming on. The rose gold one is dead, but it does have a working battery. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get all these iPhones cleaned up. We're gonna get them charged. Well, I said iPhones, we do have one iPod here. We're gonna clean them up, we're gonna charge them, then we're gonna see what we've got with these devices. So we'll take a quick break and be back once I'm finished with that. All right, we are back. I got the devices cleaned up and they are mostly charged, although these 6S Plus iPhones seem to be charging incredibly slow. They've literally been plugged in for like 2 hours now, and I know they're pulling power. The gold one looks like it's almost completely full, but the rose gold one is taking its sweet time. It looks like it's in the 20s there, so I don't know why it's charging so slow. Either way, these are both at the slide to setup screen, so that means they are running iOS 9. Again, these are 6S models, so iOS 9 is the only version that these would run that has the slide to set up or slide to unlock or whatever you want to call it. Kind of concerned. As you guys know, the 6S models on iOS 9 do not like to activate. I have actually been pretty lucky with getting them to activate, but if I remember correctly, these had an iCloud account attached to them, but they were at the home screen when I purchased them. So it was a risk I was willing to take. I'd imagine we're going to get these set up or at least attempt to, and they're going to give us an activation problem. But we will try that here in just a moment. Before we do that, I'll show you these 2 devices here. This is a 4th gen Touch. This one's running iOS 4.1. So I believe that is actually the very first version of iOS 4 that this iPod Touch got. And that means we still have the cool green FaceTime logo there. That was quickly changed to the gray or white one, I think. It might actually be here on this 4S. And there's no FaceTime icon here on the iPhone, so can't even compare it. But the 4S here is running iOS 5. As you can see, we do have that YouTube app there. This is running 5.1.1, 16 gig model. The iPod Touch was 8 gigabytes. I don't know if you guys saw that. So these are both on their original version of iOS. The 4S is really scratched up here on the back. The front is in a little bit better condition, but you can see it does have a fair share of scratches as well. The iPod Touch, the back has seen better days. Not uncommon for these to be completely covered in scratches thanks to that stainless steel back that scratches so easily. The front of the device is in good condition. It's a little bit dirty there. There are some scratches, but no cracks on the iPod or the iPhone 4S. Unfortunately, we cannot say the same about the iPhone 6s models there. This actually has a bunch of music on it. Haven't really taken the time to scroll through it, but we can just real quickly slide through cover flow here, something I wish Apple would bring back. I loved using this back in the day on my iPod Touch. So pretty good spread of music here. Looks like just about every genre you can think of. So that's pretty cool to see there on the iPod. All right, now we're gonna try to get these iPhone 6s Plus models set up. I really have low hopes for this. We'll see what happens, but I'm expecting these to give us an activation error, or actually even more likely, I think we're gonna get the iCloud lock on both of these devices, but we'll go ahead and try it out. All right, we'll join the Wi-Fi on that one. And okay, we got a problem there. That's better than getting an iCloud screen. So we'll see what happens here. I have experienced this in the past where they will give this exact error and you kind of just have to try it again. We'll see if it works. No, oh, there we go. So it says activation could not be completed. Please restore the iPhone and install the latest version of iOS and attempt activation again. So I believe this is the first time I've ever experienced this problem here on the 6S and 6S Plus. Let's see what happens on our rose gold model here. Will we get that same message? No, we went right to the home screen and we did get an iCloud pop-up. So you can see there are apps on here. Okay, this is interesting. Let's head into settings, general, and about. 9.3.5, it's a 128 gigabyte iPhone 6S Plus. Very interesting here. There is an Apple ID logged in, as you can see there, and Find My iPhone is turned on, so that is really unfortunate. But very interesting that this phone activated without any problems. Very surprised about that. So unfortunately, this phone has a lot of bad things going for it. One, it's completely shattered. It has an Apple ID logged in with Find My turned on. That's unfortunate. It's in pretty rough condition around the edges, but it is a 128 gigabyte 6S Plus running iOS 9. I mean, that is incredibly hard to find. So I guess you take the good with the bad here and figure out if this phone is worth it or not. I don't really know. Not sure what there is to do with this other than kind of put it on a shelf and appreciate iOS 9 here. I mean, incredibly smooth. I remember when this phone came out, I actually got it new. I had a space gray 6S Plus running iOS 9, and I remember thinking how insanely fast this thing was with its dual-core A9 chip, 2 gigs of RAM, the most ever in an iPhone. This thing was an absolute beast. And even up until today, I mean, it's supported all the way through iOS 15. It's still pretty smooth on iOS 15. I will say one bad thing about this device is the battery. These things really did not have great batteries when they were new, and they've really worn out over time. It's hard to find one of these with a battery that lasts more than a couple hours today here in 2025. But really cool device. Pretty bummed out about this one. Not really sure what there is to do here. I have seen, it seems like maybe there are some ways you can use terminal or some applications on a computer and kind of route your way through this activation problem. Not 100% sure about that. Someone leave me a comment down below if there are any good guides or methods that I can get past this activation error here on the 6S Plus, because that would be pretty cool. Although I do think this does have an iCloud account on it, if I remember correctly. So even if we did get it activated, it would end up being the same as this one over here. So not great, but it was pretty cool to get one of these activated. Happy about that. And then of course we've got the iPhone 4S here running iOS 5. It's always a real treat to get one of these. They are really neat devices. And it's kind of crazy that these both supported the same iOS version with iOS 9, which is the iPhone 4S's last version and the iPhone 6S's first. So these two were side by side there with iOS 9. Of course, the experience is drastically different. The 6S flies through iOS 9 and the iPhone 4S really struggles. It's not a good experience trying to use iOS 9 here on the iPhone 4S. But this is a cool phone. It was Apple's first dual-core iPhone. It's got an 8-megapixel camera on the back. It's got the same design as the iPhone 4. It was the last iPhone to feature that 30-pin connector down here at the bottom. Also last iPhone to feature a headphone jack at the top. Apple moved that down to the bottom, starting with the iPhone 5, just a year after this thing came out. Also the first phone to have Siri, and I don't know if it's working because we are not on the internet. Let me get connected to Wi-Fi and we'll go ahead and test Siri out here on the iPhone 4S. We'll actually test Siri here on the 6S as well. I haven't really done that. I'm sure it's going to work. I'm not 100% sure about the 4S. We'll give it a try. What were the score of this week's NFL football games?
I can do that if you update to the latest version of iOS.
Really, that is convenient, Siri. Not very helpful there. Let's try iOS 9. What were the score of this week's NFL football games?
I found 3 NFL games between last Monday and yesterday.
Okay, so Siri is working, although I don't know if you guys could hear that. Sounds very much like a robot. Very different compared to the modern Siri we have. And then, of course, Apple Intelligence sounds even more natural. But that's cool to see. We can't test Siri on this one, but iOS 9 would be the same. And, of course, iOS 4 does not have Siri, and the iPod Touch 4th Gen never supported Siri. All right, I think that's going to do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed taking a look at some of these old devices. This was the first time I've encountered the activation problem on an iPhone 6s. We did get one to work, but it does have an Apple ID, and this thing is pretty shattered. But it's still a cool 128GB 6s Plus running iOS 9. And then we've got the 4S over here, 16GB running iOS 5. Pretty cool to see. And the most common of them all, the iPod Touch 4th Gen running iOS 4. All right, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in another one of my videos.